All right, so this video is going to cover Chapter 9 of what's it called? 10 Steps to Advanced Reading. You can follow along on page 335. I'm going to apologize in advance. This is the longest chapter um, in the book in terms of the information that's included in it. So this presentation may be a little bit long. I'll try to go through it a little bit quickly. There's a lot of information here. I don't expect you guys to learn every single type of argument that's in here, but just consider this as an introduction to these kind of arguments, this kind of information. And my hope is that it's going to help you later on when you get into your other classes, that at least you have a familiarity with it if an English professor or something else is talking about it. So our focus here is about critical reading. So it's important that skilled readers are those who recognize an author's point and the support from that point. But critical readers are those who can evaluate an author's support for a point and determine whether that support is solid or not. So basically what that means is that to be a good reader, a skilled reader means that you can understand what's the main idea and what's the support for it. But a critical reader means that you do that, but you also make a judgment about, okay, that's the main idea and this is the support. Is the support strong or is the support weak? How is it written? Is it something that I'm going to accept, or is it something that I'm not going to accept? And that's what you want to become as you move forward, is more of a critical reader, so that you're evaluating more. So in this chapter it talks about 3 ways to read more critically. The first one is separating fact from opinion, and we'll talk about the difference between the two of those. The second one is detecting propaganda, and we'll talk about what that is. And the last one is recognizing errors in reasoning. Okay, so the last 2 sections, detecting propaganda and recognizing errors in reasons, there's a lot of information in there, and that's the stuff that you just need to have a general familiarity with. I don't expect perfection on doing those. There's just not enough time. Okay, so let's start off with separating fact from fiction. Okay, so we got fact and we have opinion. So here with the picture of fact, we have something solid, and with the opinion we have something that's airy, that's not quite as solid. So when we talk about a fact is information that can be proven true through objective evidence. Okay, so this evidence can be physical proof or the spoken or written testimony of witnesses. So here's a statement that contains several facts. The facts can be checked for accuracy, so you can prove them true. If you can prove them true, it means you can also prove them false. So sometimes people get confused because a fact can be wrong, but that doesn't make it an opinion. It just means it's an incorrect fact. So for example, Abraham Lincoln, whose nickname was Honest Abe, had no formal education or religion. He was President of the United States from 1861 to 1865 at a salary of $25,000 a year. Now, maybe his nickname was Honest Abe, but maybe if it wasn't Honest Abe, maybe it was Honest Link. You could check that, but this wouldn't be an opinion. It would just be an incorrect fact. Okay, we'll talk about how an opinion is different than that. Okay. So here's another statement of fact. At least 4 out of 5 adults will experience lower back pain at some point in their lives. Okay. This is based on research. The research would support this. So we would say that it's a fact. Opinion is different though. An opinion is a belief, a judgment, or a conclusion that can't objectively be proved true. As a result, it's open to question. Okay, so an opinion is something that different people can agree on. So here's some statements of opinion. With the exception of only George Washington, Abraham Lincoln was the greatest leader our country has ever had. Now, you certainly could, there certainly would be many people who would agree with you about this, and you certainly could have facts that would support your opinion, but it is still an opinion, right? Because whenever you say something like greatest or the best, it's automatically an opinion. Okay, so greatest is considered a value word, and if you're on page 337, there's a list of value words there. So it's used to express a value judgment, and whenever you're expressing a value word, that's signaling that an opinion is being expressed. By their very nature, these words represent opinions, not facts. Whenever you say best, better, worst, these are all considered opinions. Here's another opinion. The best treatment for lower back pain is physical therapy. Okay, maybe it's a good treatment. I'm sure that it is a good treatment, but to say it's a best, there's many other different ones. Like it says here, medication, exercise, surgery, acupuncture. All of these things are also recommended. So to say something is the best, maybe you can have evidence to support your opinion, but it's still an opinion. It's not something that everyone is going to agree on. So here's 5 points on facts and opinion, and this is on 337. So statements of facts may be found to be untrue, and I talked about this before. Facts can turn out to be errors, not facts. It's not unusual for evidence to show that a fact is not really true. For example, it was once considered a fact that the world was flat, but the fact was wrong. Now, that's not now we would say that's an opinion because we know that it's not true, but no, sorry, let me back up on that. Now we would say that that's wrong. The world is not flat, but we wouldn't say that it's an opinion because we can prove that it's not true. We can prove that it's not true. The second thing is on value words. When you see value words, these ones represent opinions. So here's a list of the value words, and these are on 337. So value words are generally subjective, not objective. While factual statements reported on observed reality, subjective statements evaluate or interpret reality. Okay, so what that means, subjective means opinion. Objective means like fair and balanced. So whenever you're being subjective, you're giving an opinion on something. So for example, the observation it's raining outside is objective, right? It's a fact. Either it's true or it's not true. The statement that the weather is bad is subjective. It's an evaluation. You're making a judgment about it, right? Some people may say that's good because it's good for their plants. Some people may say it's bad because they don't like to walk in the rain, okay? But it's a value judgment. Whenever you see words like should or ought to, these are ones that signal opinions, okay? What they're saying is that this is the idea of what people think should or ought to be done, and other people are going to disagree. So example, adults who molest young children ought to be put to death. Okay, this is an opinion. You may agree with it, but it's still an opinion. Women with children should not run for public office. Again, this is an opinion. You may agree with it, but it's just an opinion. Other people can disagree. So look for those words to clue in. Don't mistake widely held opinions for facts, okay? So just because something is an opinion that a lot of people hold to be true doesn't mean it's a fact. So for example, an ad may claim that a particular automobile is the most economical car on the road today. A statement that at first seems like, okay, that must be a fact. It's based on something. But what do you mean by economical? Right? If the car offers the most miles per gallon but the worst record for expensive repairs, you might not agree that it's economical, meaning you save a lot of money on gas, but when it breaks down, it's really expensive to fix. So it depends on how you define the term economical. The fifth thing, the final thing, much of what we read in here is a mixture of fact and opinion, right? We're going to use facts to support our opinions, okay? And we're going to have opinions on the facts that we have. So our job is to draw upon the fact and opinion and to arrive at an informed opinion, Okay, the reality is that most of what matters in life is very complex and cannot be separated into just simple fact and opinion. So the challenge that we face is to arrive at the best possible informed opinion. So when we're reading something, we need to evaluate what we're reading. Okay, so in general, textbooks authors are going to try as much as they can to be factual. Okay, but on the other hand, if you're reading an essay or an editorial or a political speech or an ad, they'll contain facts, but those facts are carefully selected to back the author's opinion. So keep that in mind. Anytime you're reading sort of an opinion piece, someone will back it up with facts. I was just reading an opinion piece today that while I agreed with the facts that the person presented, I felt they were being completely dishonest because they didn't include other facts that supported the other side of the opinion. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. We want to ask ourselves, is this a fact or is this an opinion? So this is on page 338, the same ones here. So in 1828, New York became the first state to restrict abortion. By 1900, it had been made illegal throughout the country. And B says legalized abortion is the main cause of sexual misbehavior in the United States. So which one's the fact and which one's the opinion? Well, the first one's a fact, right? We can go back and check. Was New York the first state to restrict abortion? We can find out whether that's true or false. By 1900, was it illegal throughout the whole country? That's a fact. Either it's true or it's not true, but it's a fact. But the second one is an opinion, right? It's the main cause of sexual misbehavior. Well, you have to ask yourself, what does sexual misbehavior mean? And then there's also the issue of that there was sexual misbehavior existed before legalized abortion. Okay, so there's, I mean, it may be, you may believe in that opinion, but it's an opinion, not a fact, because people can disagree. All right, so let's look at these ones. Which one's a fact and which is an opinion? Today's computer animated films are not as good as the old hand-drawn animated ones. The first American animated feature was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, released in 1937 by the Disney Studio. In 1940, animated film Fantasia, which combined animation with classical music, is the most imaginative movie ever made. Okay, so if we look at the first one, right? If we look at the second one is a fact, right? We can go back and check whether or not this was true, right? It can be confirmed by checking film records. The first one is an opinion, okay? The clue there is that it uses the word good, right? So that's one of the value words. Okay, but if we look at the last one, we have a combination of fact and opinion. So we can go back and check if it was made in 1940 and if it combined animation and classical music. That's a fact. But when we say most imaginative is a value word, so that's an opinion. So here's the next one. This is propaganda. Okay, and again, like I said, there's a bunch of different kinds of propaganda, and people tend to get a little bit confused by these. Do the best you can with them. Don't get too stressed out about them. Okay, so we have different types of propaganda. So advertisers, salespeople, and politicians are constantly promoting their points. Buy our products. Believe what I say. Vote for me. Okay. Often they lack adequate factual support for their points, so they appeal to our emotions by using propaganda techniques. So what this means is that there's not enough true facts, there's not enough facts that support that you should buy this project, or that you should believe what I say, or that you should vote for me. So instead they use propaganda. Okay, so being a critical reader is having the ability to recognize the propaganda techniques for the emotional fluff that they are. Okay, so when we're talking about propaganda it's probably better to just look at the examples to help you understand what propaganda means. Okay, so the first one is the bandwagon. Then we have testimonial, transfer, plain folks, name calling, and glittering generalities. Okay, so these are there's other propaganda techniques, but these are the most common. So we'll focus on these ones. All of these are using emotional appeals to distract from the facts that they're not providing. Okay, so propaganda is something that appeals to your emotions rather than appealing to facts. So if we look at bandwagon, the bandwagon basically means, this is on page 341, the bandwagon basically means everybody's doing it, right? Everybody's doing it, so you should do it too. You may have heard the expression, jump on the bandwagon. This often happens, after a team wins the Super Bowl, a lot of people jump on the bandwagon. So last year, the Patriots won. So now there's a whole bunch of new Patriots fans. The Royals just won the World Series. So now all of a sudden people are Royals fans. But the bandwagon appeal works like this. An ad announces a sale giving us a chance to buy the most popular SUV in America today, right? Everybody's buying this SUV. You should too. In a soft drink ad, a crowd of young people follow a young woman on skates who's drinking a diet soda, right? Everybody's going after this woman and with her diet soda, so you should too, right? We should be on the winning side, right? You want to be with everybody. If you don't join the crowd, you're going to miss out. You're going to miss out on an opportunity. Okay, so which of these two is a bandwagon appeal? So we see a beautiful woman in a slinky dress is shown driving the sponsor's car. Or there's an ad for a weight loss pill featuring an attractive couple who are just two of the millions who have decided to get their bodies back with this new diet formula. So the answer is B, right? These are two of the millions, right? So it's trying to say that everybody's doing this, right? So everybody's doing this, so you should too. So the next one here, this on 342, is the testimonial. And the testimonial uses the power of famous people to try and influence the viewers, right? If you like the famous person, then we try to associate the product with that. So here's some examples. A famous actor is shown coping with a swarm of photographers in order to get a bottle of his favorite beer. Okay. A popular TV talk show host appears in an ad that indicates she uses a certain credit card. Okay, so in each one of these we have someone famous being associated with whatever the product is trying to be sold. In the first case, beer. In the second case, the credit card. So the fame is what's they're trying to influence with us the fame, right? If you like that famous person, you should also like the product. So let's look at these two. Which one's testimonial? Numerous people crowd around a department store door waiting for the store to open. A famous actress says she loves to use a certain hair coloring. So the answer is the second one. We have the famous actress in this one who is endorsing the product. So because this woman is famous, it gets associated with the product. The next one here is transfer. Okay, and this is a common type in which products try to associate themselves with something that people admire and love. So in a sense, this is similar to testimonial, because with a testimonial, the product is trying to be associated with a famous person. Okay, but with transfer, oftentimes the thing it's trying to be associated is a symbol. So in this one, we have this politician who has in his pocket an American flag. He's also standing next to Miss America, right? So they're hoping that there's some transfer. So you see the pretty lady and you think, oh, that guy must be good. Or you see the American flag and you say, well, he supports America, so I'm going to support him. So this is transfer, where you try to associate yourself with something that people like. Okay. So which one of these is transfer? A beer company sponsors the Daytona 500 auto race with the line, America's Race and America's Beer. A picture of a can of soda bears the caption, you know it's got to be good. It's the first one there. So in this case, what it's saying is it's saying America's race and America's beer. It's saying if you love this race, you're going to love this beer. Both of them are patriotic. Watching this race is something Americans do, and drinking this beer is something Americans do. Okay, the next one is plain folks, and this is on page 343. So plain folks is when powerful people present themselves just as ordinary, average citizens. So political candidates often try to do this, right? Most of the political candidates, if you look on the Republican debate or even the Democratic debate, these are people who are really wealthy and who have lived lives that are different than the majority of people. But what they try to do is they try to appear in their ads like they're just ordinary folks. So here's some example. So we say average looking American kids are shown at home trying and enjoying a cereal. Okay, so this isn't politicians, but here we have a picture of people who look like us, right, who are enjoying this cereal. The president of a poultry company talks to us as if he's an everyday shopper looking for a quick and easy meal, just like us. Okay, again, it's trying to make the people look like us. So in the first ad, they want to show us that this is a cereal that just average kids like ours will eat. And the second one is showing that the president of this country, he's just an average guy. He's got the same problems we do, okay, in the hope that this will make us buy the product. So which one of these is plain folks approach? A famous basketball player wears the sponsor's sneakers. The president of a car company is shown playing on the lawn with his young children. He says, I'm head of this company, but I'm also a dad who's concerned about automobile safety. It's the second one. It's making that president of the car company, who's probably very, very wealthy and lives a life completely different than us, makes him look like he's just like us. He's playing on the lawn with his children. He's also a dad, right? He's just a regular guy, just like us. Okay, and so then the next one here, the last one of, we got two more of the propaganda here, is name calling. So name calling is an emotionally loaded language or negative comments to turn people against something, against a product or a political candidate or cause. So here's two examples. In the 1950s, during the early age of the Cold War with the Soviet Union, an exaggerated concern about communism in this country brought charges of un-Americanism against many. Okay, that's really complicated to understand. But basically what it's saying is that in the 1950s, if you said anything, if you were at all associated with communism or the Soviet Union, you were thought to be un-American, right? And there's the whole House of Un-American panels, and you may learn about that if you study U.S. history about the 1950s and McCarthy. Here, during a taste test, consumers described the other leading brands of spaghetti sauce as too salty and thin and tasteless. So here's an example where you're complaining about the other spaghetti sauce and the problem of it. All right. So which of these two is name calling? Remember, name calling means you're insulting the other product. A political ad implies that a candidate who does not support the war in Afghanistan is anti-American. A pastor describes how his house burned down. His home insurance company responded quickly and helpfully. So it's the first one, right? It's saying if you don't support the candidate, if he doesn't support the war in Afghanistan, then he's anti-American, right? So it's name calling. Now our last one here is glittering generalities, right? And what this is you have an important sounding but unspecified claim about some product, candidate, or cause. So the claim uses fine and virtuous words but really says nothing definite. There's nothing clear that's stated. So look at these examples. The room deodorizer exclaims, experience the freshness. What does that mean? A canned food ad boasts of nutrition that works. what does it mean for nutrition to work? Right? Both of those, yeah, experience freshness. Yeah, I want to experience the freshness. I want nutrition that works, but I don't understand what either of those are saying because they don't seem to mean anything. So here's an example. A car ad claims, it just feels right. A movie star looks over her dark sunglasses and says, maybe you can't be a celebrity, but you can look like one in glasses like mine. So the first one, right? It just feels right. What the heck does that mean? It just feels right. It doesn't tell us anything about the car. Right. And so moving on, and I told you guys if you're still listening to this, God bless you. This is long. There's a lot in there. Okay, so we want to recognizing errors in reasoning. Okay, there's 6 more of these. So bear with me as we get through these. So when we talk about a fallacy, the word fallacy means an error in reasoning. Okay, it takes place. It takes the place of real support needed in an argument. The result is a poorly supported argument. Okay, so the argument on the left is the kind you want, with a solid base of support. But a fallacy is like the argument on the right, so that if the wind blows, the entire argument falls down. Right? A valid point is like this, but this is a fallacious point, is built on a house of cards. There's not any real support. So let's take a look at 2 common fallacies that were discussed in the Chapter 8 on argument. One of them is changing the subject, which distracts from the issue by presenting irrelevant support that actually has nothing to do with the argument. The other one is a hasty generalization. Okay, it's a point in which point a point has inadequate support. Drawing a conclusion based on insufficient evidence is the same as making a hasty generalization. Okay, hasty means quick without forethought, and a generalization means it's true about everything. But in this one, we want to talk about these 6 here. So 3 fallacies that ignore the issue. So we have circular reasoning, personal attack, straw man. And then 3 fallacies that oversimplify the issue. We have false cause, false comparison, and then either or. Okay? All of these are wrong. All of these are things that you want to avoid. And it's something to keep in mind as you guys are shortly going to be in in a composition class where you're going to be arguing certain positions. And my guess is that you're going to have one or maybe more than one of these written on one of your papers, saying this is wrong because of this. And when that happens, you can come back to your ESL 52 book and take a look at this to understand it a little bit better. Okay, so our first one here is circular reasoning, and this is on page 346. Okay, you can't use a point to support. A point can't be reasonably be used as evidence to support it. The fallacy of including such illogical evidence is called circular reason or begging the question. Okay, so what does this mean? So here we say Alan Gordon is a great manager because he's so wonderful at managing. You're not saying anything here, right? Great manager and wonderful at managing, it's the same thing, right? There's no difference. It's the same sort of thing that I say to you when you're answering questions or you're defining a word. You can't use the word to define itself. So, what does think mean? You can't say, well, it means thinking. So this is the same sort of thing with circular reasoning, where you're using the exact same thing to support. You're just saying the same thing twice. You can't do that. So here, which one's circular reasoning? Exercise is healthful because it improves your well-being. Exercise is healthful because it reduces blood pressure, high cholesterol, and body fat. The first one's circular reasoning. It's helpful and it improves your well-being. They're saying the exact same thing. So our next one here is a personal attack. So a personal attack is when you're attacking the individual, not the position. You're not dealing with what the thing is that the person is saying, but what you're doing is you're attacking the character of the person who you're talking to. So here's an example. That woman should not be on a church committee. She just got divorced for the 2nd time, right? So really, there may be reasons she shouldn't be on the church committee, but they should have to do with her performance, not her personal life. So this is a personal attack, right? This shouldn't have anything to do with it. So which one of these is a personal attack? Our school guidance counselor should be asked to resign. She cursed at a student last week. Our school guidance counselor should be asked to resign. One of her sons is gay. This one, her personal life doesn't have anything to do with her job as a counselor. However, cursing as a student is a reason that she should be asked to resign. Okay, and then the third one of this is the straw man fallacy. Okay, and this is on page 347. A straw man suggests that an opponent favors an obviously unpopular choice or cause when the opponent doesn't really support that. Okay, so basically what you're saying is that you say, my opponent is saying such and such, even though your opponent is not saying that. So here's an example. Senator Crossley supports a bill to limit the purchase of handguns. She wants to take handguns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens and put them into the hands of criminals. Well, of course she doesn't want to do that, right? That's not the thing. Her goal is not to take them out of to give them to criminals. She's just saying that there should be a limit on handguns, but the opponent is changing the point. So which one of these is a straw man? My neighbors are voting against the new school budget. They want our students to fall behind students in developing nations like India and China. My neighbors are voting against the new school budget. They oppose the salary increases for the superintendent and his staff. Okay, so here it's the first one, right? No, of course they don't want people to fall behind. That's not an argument that they're making. The second is the argument that they're making. All right. So here we go. We're on the home stretch here, guys. So stick with me. We're almost there. All right. So here's 3 fallacies that oversimplify the issues. So the first 3 ignored the issues. These ones are oversimplification. So the first one is false cause. Okay, and this one, pardon me, is on page 348. So a false cause occurs when one assumes that because B follows event A, that event B was caused by event A. Okay, a little bit confusing. Let's look at an example. My favorite TV show was moved to a different time slot this season. No wonder it's now getting canceled. Now, just because it moved to a different time slot doesn't mean that that's the reason it's getting canceled. Is it possible? Yeah, but just because one thing happened after the other doesn't mean that there's a relationship between the two of them. Like it says here, maybe the show has less competent writers, or maybe the favorite actor left the show. There could be other reasons. Okay? So it's dangerous to assume that just because A came before B, that A caused B. So which one is a false cause argument? Many fast food TV commercials on TV are hard to resist. That's why I've gained a lot of weight. Many fast food commercials on TV are hard to resist. If I'm not careful, I'll eat too many burgers, shakes, and fries. Okay? The first one, right? The issue here is that there may be a lot of other reasons why someone has gained weight. It's not clear that just because they're hard to resist, just because I see that TV commercial doesn't mean that I've gained weight. It could be because of stress, lack of sleep, depression. There's lots of other possible reasons. And there's a false comparison. So a false comparison is an assumption that two things are more alike than they really are. Basically, you're equating two things. So consider this argument. When your brother was your age, he was already married and raising a family. So why aren't you married, Dean? Maybe some of you guys have experienced this sort of situation where you're being compared to a sibling, right? But this isn't fair. It's a false comparison because my brother is not me. His life is different than me, right? We can't say just because he did it, I should also be doing it. The the situations are similar, but we're different people. Okay, so this is a false comparison. Okay, so the differences in this case are more important than the similarities. So when the differences are more important, it's a false comparison. So my dad takes an antidepressant, so I don't see what's wrong with my smoking marijuana. My dad takes an antidepressant, so I'm probably going to have a mood disorder someday. All right. So the first one is a false comparison. What it's comparing is an antidepressant and marijuana, but the two things aren't the same. An antidepressant is a legal doctor prescribed medication. In most places in the US still, marijuana is not, right? It's still an illegal drug. So they're more different than the same. And the last one is the either or problem. So it's often assumed that there's only two sides to a question. Offering only two choices when more than one exists is an either or fallacy. While some issues have only two sides, most of them have several. So think about this. Women must decide whether they want to have a career or have children. What this one is failing for allow for the other alternatives, working part-time, sharing child rearing responsibilities with partner. There's other options besides this. Okay? So which one of these is an either or fallacy? You're ignoring my cat. You must be angry with me about something. You're ignoring my cat. You must hate all animals. Okay? The second one is an either or one, right? You're ignoring my cat. You must hate all animals. That doesn't make sense. Just because I'm not paying attention to your cat, there could be a lot of reasons that I'm not paying attention to the cat. Maybe I'm stressed out about something. Maybe I just don't like your cat. But if you say that I hate all animals, that's a false comparison. I mean, that's an either or, where there's only two possible choices in this situation. And we did it. Okay, we got through. I appreciate anybody who's listened through to the end, and I hope that this helps. Remember, keep in mind, honestly, it's challenging to remember what all of those things are, and I don't really expect you to remember all of those, just to have some familiarity with them and be able to tell a little bit of the difference. So we'll go over some practice of this in class. Bring any questions that you have. Take care. Bye.